Welcome back to Melissa Talks, where we talk all things uniquely you. Yes, we are in officially now the fall season. As you know, we are all the feels. Fall season is where we are, and I'm so excited about it. Yes, the weather, depending on where you are, may not be, conducive to fall, but hang in there. We're getting there, okay? All right, so today I want to, if first, be sure to go back and listen to all of my previous episodes. If you've noticed, last week I did not upload an episode or record one simply because once again, I was traveling and I forgot my recording equipment. And so, if you recall previously in August, where I was traveling then to a nurse practitioner conference and had the opportunity to maybe interview a few of my coworkers and colleagues, I forgot my recording equipment then. But this time around, here I am. I brought my equipment with me and I could not get it to work. So maybe it's just not meant for me to get my colleagues on right now. Maybe that's what it is. But either way, the conference that I attended was in Orlando, Florida. It was with the National League of Nursing and their Education Summit for 2025. This was my first time actually, going to one of the NLN's conferences, and I was thoroughly impressed. It was very informative, very insightful. I learned a lot, met a lot of people from all over the nation. And I truly enjoyed myself. I had a few colleagues down there with me as well. But overall, the title of this year's summit was The Challenge. Unraveling the mysteries of AI. And if you're not under a rock, everybody knows that AI, artificial intelligence, is here and it is here to stay. It's pretty much thinking about when the typewriter initially came out, right? And then eventually the computer replaced the typewriter, right? And then the computer was then replaced with cell phones and, smaller tablets. It's here. It's here. And how can we, as you all know, I'm a nurse practitioner, how can we incorporate, AI into nursing education? That is what it's all about. Again, an education summit. How can we look to incorporate AI into nursing education? We had some really great keynote speakers. The first keynote speaker was from the first night, the opening keynote, Dr. Maxim Topaz. His title of his speech and talk was Integrating AI into Nursing Education, Innovations, Challenges, and also Practical Applications. And couple of and it was very practical. When I tell you, what he actually went over and explained, it was really good. I came away or took away with that actual talk, a few new platforms to be able to utilize. Not sure if you all have heard of Gamma, and I'm not, of course, looking to endorse anybody or anything in this actual podcast episode, but one AI tool is Gamma. Another one was Perplexity. I had not heard of these two. And so, I have my son who's in college, and I called him that evening, like, hey, have you heard of these, AI tools out there? And he's like, oh, yeah, I've heard of Perplexity, but he had not heard of Gamma. And so overall, when it comes to, this keynote address, he he explored those integral roles of enhancing nursing curriculum, especially as it relates to simulation-based learning and even looking to improve data literacy. And so we utilize simulation all the time in nursing, especially when our students are, we may not have the ability to get into the clinical setting, maybe due to spacing or things of the sort. Simulation is where it's at. No, it is not the actual real world, but the way that many of our companies are, making these different mannequins to be able to, portray real life situations it is where we are right now. And so when it comes to that, he truly his whole, talk and presentation really allowed that to be brought to the forefront, especially when it comes to simulation, and getting that data that we need as it pertains to AI and its utilization in nursing education. And so it was really, really good. And then we had another keynote speaker who was on, and she did the Deborah Spunt lecture. If you're not familiar with Deborah Spunt, she is one of the main forefounders as it relates to simulation and utilization of the headsets, and that's your virtual reality and having that immersed into, nursing education and learning. So the actual talk was done by Cynthia Bradley. And so again, the Deborah Spunt lecture, they of course look to honor her. She's no longer with us, but honor her and her work as the trailblazer for this aspect of nursing education. And so Cynthia Bradley was the person that did the actual presentation and lecture. Her title was From Headsets to Datasets, Empowering Nurse Educators to Utilize AI and Immersive Simulation and Beyond. And it was really, really, really good. And so just, one for me, I didn't realize Deborah Spunt was that initial person, and giving that, honor and homage to her was really, really good. And of course, the talk that she gave, she really went into, her growing up and, her mom passing away from a massive stroke and, really, really setting the foundation for her to continue to go on in nursing. And even in this aspect of it, what that looks like as it pertains to the utilization of virtual reality and so forth. So really, really good. And then the last keynote speaker was Matthew Byrne. He is a national faculty member. And so his talk was the AI revolution in nursing education. And it was very, very good. All of them were good, but I truly, honed in on his the most because he gave the example of you being, and he said it for himself, starting out, him being an ICU nurse. And that was me coming out of nursing school, went straight into Pete's ICU and having the opportunity to now have like a headset that could be against artificial intelligence. And we all go in with this level of trepidation, right? This level of fear when it comes to, you're a new nurse, you're getting out there, you're now into this, critical care setting. You see the client and there's so much going on, right? But what do I do in some of those moments? And so having the ability to have, this cutting edge technology to where you have a headset, I'm pretty much, paraphrasing it, but you have a headset and you can talk into this headset and say, I have this client who has XYZ critical condition going on. What are the algorithms? What do I do in this moment? XYZ. And it gives you all the information to be confident and competent in caring for this client in that moment. So it gives, of course, the new nurse, that new graduate nurse, or, even if you're not a new nurse, but now you're in a new area. Maybe, we go from different areas of nursing and it's new to us, right? And there's always a level of trepidation. So you want to make sure that you are confident in what you're doing. And these are just some of those ways to be able to do that. And I absolutely love, love, love this talk. Again, I love the others, but I really, really love this and really wish I had this when I was that new nurse out there and, going into the clinical setting and into that room and yeah, and have this information there to be able to help with me. So the next generation, you all got it. Just utilize it properly, okay? The NLN's chair, Dr. Beverly Malone, she made a statement and a quote here. AI is not the enemy. It's the next evolution of nursing education. And that is so true. And, just being here, I mentioned a couple of AI tools, but there are so many that I was, exposed to that I did not know about before. During the conference, there were multiple concurrent breakout sessions, and a lot of them that I attended, focused on advanced practice nursing and, how we can utilize telehealth was one of them. So pretty much telehealth and advanced practice nursing students and how can we look to, help students figure out through telehealth how to do the work of a nurse practitioner. So I hope that makes sense there. And so we know telehealth is here to stay, but now utilizing that in nursing education to help students. And so it was really, really eye-opening when it came to that because, obviously when I came out of nursing school for as a nurse practitioner over 10 years ago now, we didn't have that. We weren't thinking back then that we would need to have telehealth, to be able to help us because we one day would do it. But now they're getting this education in their program. So they are familiar with how to, utilize the technology, even how to still convey, empathy and sympathy and even concern and hearing what our clients are not saying to us. We can see a lot of times when we're face to face with our clients, what's happening physically, what they look like, but a lot of that, you can't really see and pick up on in a telehealth or a virtual setting or a client appointment. So really getting that at the forefront to be able to learn is integral. It is very key. I absolutely love that. Kolb's, Kolbs, her experiential learning theory. I'm not going to go over it here, but they use that as the foundation for this program that they implemented with the telehealth. All right, so a few other things that, I did, get to be a part of. There was one breakout session with Creighton University and some faculty members from there where they were looking at how to utilize a chatbot for difficult conversations. And this chatbot was an actual hologram. So it was like so, I mean, it was, yeah, so cutting edge technology. I absolutely loved it. And, how to look to have conversations, that if us as a human, we may not know what to say in certain situations, especially if it's, a situation with a terminal illness with a client, things like that. But we can put that into AI or a chatbot, and we can then look to say the right things. It can help us say the things that need to be said in that moment. And so you can always look to alter it and adjust it to fit the need of that moment. And then, of course, the hologram use in nurse practitioner education as well. Again, looking at the patient that's there and, being able to speak to the patient, that's there. It was very, and I don't want to mess up their presentation, but it was really, really eye-opening and cutting edge, I must say. Then, of course, I went to another breakout session that looked at podcasting, right? Podcasting and nursing education and how we can utilize podcasting in nursing education in our classrooms. And so, again, I do teach nursing as well. How can we look to put that into the classroom? How can we look to allow for whatever it is we're trying to get across? Like, say, I have this podcast right here, right? Whatever information I'm trying to get across to my students, hey, this could be a recording of a podcast that's out there. Listen to this. And of course, from there, complete your assignment that has been assigned to you. And so I never really thought about it, okay, hey, let's put this, maybe I could record a podcast episode that's specific to my students and only give them access to that actual podcast episode. And then they would need to do an assignment from there, very cutting edge and utilized very often. Um, and so just really thinking about overall, what it was that, we can pull from it. Again, lessons learned from this NLN conference. I was, thoroughly impressed, as I would say. Again, there's a conference every year, Education Summit every year that the NLN puts on. Next year it's going to be in Washington, D.C., I believe it is, but it's not going to be about AI. And I just want to, one of my colleagues was the one who, gave me this opportunity to be able to come, and I'm grateful to her for that because I don't know if they're going to do another AI conference again. And this was, again, very eye-opening, very informative, very insightful. I am very pleased. Now, we do understand that you have to think about the ethical integration when it comes to utilizing AI. That too was focused on in another breakout session to where we're thinking about transparency, even consent, because again, you can't just do something and not get the client's consent to be able to do it. Being mindful of the human oversight as it relates to making sure AI is doing what it's supposed to do. Like I said, if you're going to utilize it, you would look to be able to alter it to your needs and having that human oversight. It's gonna be necessary that you don't just leave this to AI and you don't do any type of, uh, making sure that it's done properly and that the oversight is there and that you're not crossing the lines of HIPAA. We have to be mindful of HIPAA when it comes to making sure that clients' information is not being, transmitted without their consent and so forth, whether that is electronic, verbal, or even written. So we really want to make sure we're on top of that. And again, giving the oversight that's necessary to ensure that this information is not crossing the boundaries of any ethical issues. I've never been one that feared what is next in life, especially when it comes to ever-changing things in our society, such as something with AI. But I know people may have, right? And so and we've always here recently as faculty talked about how can we look to embrace this because it's not going to go away. We're always concerned about, students going to be cheating, things like that. But now it's like, hey, let's embrace this. But even in the embracing of it, allow students to actually incorporate their own. We can tell when, this is all AI generated, right? But what is it that you can also bring to that assignment, with AI, if that makes sense. And so now we see it as a partner. I can see it now as a partner in education in helping our students because even for myself, and even other faculty, we utilize it to be able to help to bring clarity to assignments, to help generate assignments. We can even utilize it now to help, generate our rubrics as it relates to our student learning outcomes or course learning outcomes. It's just that uh, integrative, and I love it. So, how can we look to embrace it and see it as a partner in education and not fear it overall? And so, it really helped me to rethink, how I teach critical, thinking and how I look to, incorporate assignments. It really has helped me to rethink those things. And so, overall, when it comes to the NLN, you can find some of this information out there. They might have some recordings, they may have some, papers that may have been written on it, and then maybe some webinars that you can be a part of. And if you're able to go search for that, be sure to do that. I mean, it's only going to help overall. And so, one thing I would look to encourage if you're a faculty member or somebody who's teaching in some sort of aspect, start small. If, of course, you're just not sure, maybe utilize one AI tool. There, as I mentioned, a couple of them, Gamma, there's Perplexity, there's your usual Chat GPT. There's also, Gemini with Google. There is Copilot with Microsoft. There are so many different platforms that you can utilize. So I would say start small, pilot one of those tools, in your classroom or whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're able to get feedback from those that you're working with, get the feedback. Hey, did this work? Did this not work? And so forth. So really keep that in mind. And I will say that as I close here, overall, this conference and this summit, it didn't, for me, just explore AI. It really humanized it because, again, no fear, but we've had these thoughts about it. Is it going to make our students, for lack of a better word, not smart because they're not doing the work themselves. They're not, searching for the information themselves. Again, it's a partner. It could be a help to it, to what it is that you're doing. And so overall, If you're listening and you have this opportunity, I just gave you a few potential tips that you can utilize, but what's one way that you can plan to bring AI into your practice, into your teaching, whatever it is that you're doing? Share your thoughts with me and let me know. And so moving forward, I just wanted to bring this in for the fall and talk about what it was that I experienced last week. It was amazing. If you are a nurse or a nurse practitioner and you're listening, I recommend and have not already now, if you haven't already attended one of the NLN conferences, do it. For this one, there were over 1,300 attendees. And usually it's more than that. And for me, that was a lot. So there's usually more than that. And I'm really excited. I may attend the one next year. I'm always looking for various conferences to attend and continue to learn and explore and, think about my own skills and keeping them up to date. And so do that for yourself if it's something that you're able to do moving forward. And yeah, so this is Melissa Talks, where we talk all things uniquely you, all the feels, fall edition. We'll be back next week with I'm going to be talking about football, good people, because I have not gotten away from that just yet. But my teams, yeah, some are okay and some are in trouble right now. All right. Some are in absolute trouble. So I will be talking about that, bringing all the tea when it comes to football and my teams. And you all should know if you've listened to my previous episodes who my teams are. Okay. All right. So until next time, bye.